Please welcome to the stage your president of Idaho Technology Council, Jay Larsen.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Welcome to the Capital Connect series on the 20th of September 2022. We're so excited to have you back on our rotation. We kind of took a couple months off with the summer, and now we're ready to rock and roll. Coming to join us today, and by the way, we want to make sure we give special thanks to all of our sponsors: Alturas, Idaho First Bank, Wilson Sonsini, BR Wealth Management, Deloitte, Key Bank, Perkins Coie, and St. Luke's Health System. All right, joining us today, which I'm personally very excited about, is having Amy Gile, who's the CEO of Silverdraft Supercomputing. Let's hear it for Amy Gile. Amy, thank you. Look at that. I love it. Thank you for coming out.
We match.
Yes, yeah, we match. Thank you so much. Amy, thanks for joining us today. This is kind of a really good opportunity. The thing that's really cool, aside from the smoke and everything else going on here, is that you really have what I like to call a cool background, right? Because you grew up in Boise.
I did.
You grew up in the North End, if I'm right.
Correct.
And even have some roots to Boise High, which is where you and I kind of have a similar type thing. But you then left and started a kind of this fashion acting modeling career, right?
That's correct. Yes.
So so why don't you tell us a little bit about how early stages of Amy Gile, and then as you go forward, how we started Silverdraft Supercomputing. Yeah.
You know, it's the journey doesn't seem like it would makes a lot of sense, right? I think for me it makes absolute sense. I've always had this level of curiosity and wanting to figure out not just, okay, let's do this, but really why, and then how it works, and how all the pieces and parts can come together in a collaborative way. That has been my nature. Even in school, I would dig in. I remember when I'm aging myself, but Betamax and VHS, and my grandfather had them, and I was taking them apart. But in growing up, I just didn't know what my options really were, but I just kind of followed my gut and instincts and paths, and so I started a modeling career.
But did you like, what kind of coursework did you like when you were younger? I mean, I love this idea of taking back things apart.
Math, science, psychology.
You had all these aptitudes,
things, right,
really broad gamut of things.
The only thing I didn't really like was the whole typing thing. I was like, oh. But you know, as I had this opportunity for this modeling career, I happened to be a ballerina, and I was like, wow. It was more like, wow, you're paying me to do this? Really? But even with my modeling and acting career, it was what are the roles of the other people on set? Mm-hmm. Like what are they doing that impacts my job? So how can I do my job better if I really have an understanding of lighting, feeling the light? What does he do? And my first film was just mind-blowing. It was a John Hughes movie, minimal part. I mean, nothing role, but I got to actually stay on set and learn what everybody else was doing. And that workflow fascinated me. So the workflow, the process, everybody's part to all do what they do and then bring it together, and you've got this end product.
You brought the integration, so you were able to, you could see all the component parts.
You could see all the pieces and parts and say, wow, he's doing this, she's doing that, she's doing this, he's doing that, and suddenly this magical thing happens.
And there's a holistic idea around this, isn't it? Because you see all these components come together for you.
It wasn't just my role as an actor. It's like, you know, back then, a tennis ball hanging from the ceiling, it's X, and you're like, now what is this? Looks like a tennis ball, but it's actually something else. And that grew into, a interest in producing and the pieces and parts and coming together. And I had this idea for this concept for content, and it just seemed impossible. But in looking at the internet, I felt that it was a really great tool and a way to get content out, but specific to what I would call the end user versus your audience member, one and the same, right? And everyone thought I was crazy. And so things just continued to evolve, and we learned about this incredible gentleman by the name of Dr. Srinidhi Varadarajan. And he was a professor at Virginia Tech University. I mean, brilliant, brilliant man. And we called him, and then history just sort of expanded from there. I figured if he thought my ideas were really dumb about how technology could impact the workflow of film and how we could bring computing together, because I really believe that film would go away and it would be all digital, maybe we were onto something. And fortunately, Srinidhi has this mind and this willingness to explore all possibilities, and we came together. So, everyone always wonders. I always say I'm co-founder, and there is the other half of
this
that.
This is Srinidhi from Virginia Tech.
This is Srinidhi from Virginia Tech. Srinidhi is, I'm so appreciative to him. He saw something not just in the concept of Silverdraft, but in myself. And we became co-founders in this together, and it was much more exciting solving this for everyone versus just myself as a producer. So we've been pushing forward ever since then. I knew he couldn't be in the day-to-day. He had, Aperture, which he sold to Dell. He's had, he had his last one he just recently sold as well. So he's done very well in the space.
The Srinidhi, you were introduced to Srinidhi because of the solutions that he was talking about on the things that you're trying to, the supercomputing type thing that you were talking about. Or how did you become introduced to Srinidhi?
In looking, if you research Srinidhi, in 2003, he built the world's third fastest supercomputers with off-the-shelf Apple hardware that he was able to do. He did this with Steve Jobs. What was amazing about this system is the cost of which they built it for. It was like, I can't remember exactly. I want to say it was like 5.6 million, something like that, compared to like 256 million for the fastest. He did since then do two of the fastest supercomputers in the world, so he continued.
So he's able to do things, but where it would normally cost
insane amounts
of dollars,
and
he was able to do
yep,
it really low amounts.
And his use of things back then, it just was unheard of and not being done, which is now the standard in a lot of the compute, that's pushing forward. But he looks at the hardware and the software, and it's about how those two things come together. It's not about one or the other, but it's the marriage of those things coming together. And that's really the true difference of Silverdraft. It is, we're not a hardware company or a box company. We're not about boxes or about how many boxes we can sell and put out there. We're about what is the solution? What are our clients wanting to do? What are their goals? And then let's figure out in collaboration together how we're going to solve it with that combination of software and hardware. And our hardware we build has software layers on top of that as well. It's not just compute.
So what you did is you came up and you saw some tremendous opportunities or solutions that you could see that were real issues or opportunities within the rendering and being able to bring together these elements that would normally be you couldn't do because you didn't have the supercomputing, the capacity to do it, and you brought this along faster because of your work.
Yes.
Yeah, no. So how did this all start then? So you came up with the idea. You met with Cherie, right?
I met with Trinity.
Trinity. I'm sorry, Trinity. Wow.
And then it grew from there. It was a lot of sort of testing, figuring it out, kind of building pieces.
Yeah.
You know, Silverdraft has grown completely organically, right? And we're at that place now where it's like we're making a shift from this organic growth and, you know, proving things out, proving the demand, the need. Clients are, this is what we need, this is what we want to do. We solve that. We build the solutions and the platforms to enable our clients to do all of the really cool things that we're doing. We're not doing the cool stuff, right? They're doing these really amazing things, and we're just enabling them to do those really cool things. And so, you know, I think it was really just about, this seems so simple, but just listening to the client. You know, as an actor, my first job was to look at the script and what's on the page. Give the director and the producer what's actually on the page. Once I've given them what's on the page, then there's room for me to explore and play and see what else I can bring to the table.
Right.
But my number one first job is to give them what's actually on that script and on that piece of paper, right? That's my job. My job is to give them that, and then once I do, then there's room for more. And that's the same with this. Our job is to listen to our clients and what it is they're needing and wanting, and that informs us of the technology that we need to create for them to do that. And then once we've done that, then we can push the envelope on, okay, let's throw in a little AI into that mix.
And that's where creativity.
These are the things that will help.
Yeah, creativity really comes in at this point now because you can do it. So would you have some examples? I know that you've done a lot of work with automobile manufacturers. You've done, I mean, there's so many things that you've done. I'm amazed at all where Silverdraft, what you've been able to accomplish. Could you give us a few illustrations of some of the work you've done?
Certainly, and I think the beauty of what we have done and the incredible clients that we have is that it's been all inbound to us versus outbound. You know, each day there's something new and exciting. I think the automotive space for us is a big space. It's really helping the designers, you know, have that freedom of what they're creating and get it out and see it, make choices and decisions in a virtual environment. So our automotive clients connect in a virtual environment in, you know, locations from, you know, Japan to Detroit to Los Angeles, and make choices on that design in a virtual environment. How do you slice the car a certain way? How do you peel back layers? Really hitting with, you know, real-time ray tracing and full global illumination, so they can really see in photorealism what it's going to look like. And for Silverdraft, photorealism is the key, right? If you're in a VR headset or you're on a virtual production stage, whatever it is that you're rendering and driving, it has to be photoreal, because then your brain realizes it believes it, right? And then you can have that creativity of how you're going to change something, adapt something, you know, get reflections off of materials. And so that's what it is in kind of the automotive space. But when we look at their workflow, and then we look at the media and entertainment workflow and virtual production and this huge shift that is happening with virtual production. So for those that don't know what virtual production is, it's the use of, we're using, you know, LED walls, and there's sides and sometimes a top, and it's you're rendering in real time on the LED walls, but those LED walls are also tracking the camera. And so, you can go out and shoot plates and bring them onto the LED walls and have your locations. And it's really becoming the standard of how we're shooting film now. And so there's some incredible ones.
And with that, you're a big part of all of that, right?
We are the compute power that drives it and the workflow behind it. And we're continually evolving that workflow. I mean, this is, for us, the first time I ever turned on our first, supercomputer, it was in a big rig, and we did our test. We proved virtual production could be done. I mean, that was just brute force. Now we have things like game engines and stuff that can, speed up the workflow and shrink down the needed compute. But we always need to look at how we evolve that compute. How do we make it a smaller footprint and bring together all the other technology companies that are part of this workflow and work together so that we're continue to improve the workflow, have it be a smaller, denser footprint, significantly more sustainable. But it's this ongoing evolution of technology that's moving extremely rapidly.
Because what's always so fun is you see how much on rendering or anything, how much data is consumed by video, right?
Yeah.
And if you're doing much more in video, I mean, it's going to require much more capacity and speed and power, right? And Silverdraft is helping answer all of these.
Yes, and really high, dense performance. How much can we get in a smaller footprint so we're doing more for less? And again, photoreal, right? If you're bringing this real object and you're putting it into the virtual environment, now we have a combination of, something real in the virtual world. So if I'm in that virtual world, I want to interact, not just look and see and have it be this social platform, but I want to be in that virtual world, but truly holding on to this item, or making choices and decisions that, can be life changing, right? If you make mistakes in the virtual environment, you're not making them in the real world. And so
that's the virtual real is making it so it's really appear that it's real. So when someone watches it, that they actually
it's photoreal, or you're actually taking a real object. There's this client that we did a demo with, and it was right before COVID. I was so impressed by this company, but it was right before COVID, and it was at Autodesk University, and we did this demo with them, and they had this whole robotics arm set up that was for surgeons to do VR, and that's the real item, right? So you're bringing in the scope for the surgeon and these tools that he's using that are your real object. And this, but of course the body and all that, you're in VR is virtual. But the computer also has AI attached to it, so the computer is, learning how the surgeon's doing and it's completely photoreal. It doesn't look like a cartoon character, or it was just incredible. The tools and the robotics that they created, and this level of software.
It's a great application.
It was extremely impressive.
So on this, Amy, what was really, I heard you say something earlier that you've done the development of Silverdraft organically. Okay, so because it's always fun because whenever you have it, somebody always sits there and they go, okay, you've grown the company because you've had friends and family, and then they always throw the other F in there for fools, because you always have, there's so much stuff that people come in. There's so much, and when you go through this validation and the proof of your company, and you continue to meet the demands of customers today, but more importantly in the future, it's a hard deal to be able to sit there and have this thing organically come.
Yeah.
Talk about how because it's not an easy deal for what you've
No.
been able to do over the last several years, right?
It's not. I mean, there has been challenges. I mean, a lot of challenges. There's been trial and error. There's been this, oh, that's impossible. That can't happen. Or, you're not from this space, but it's this other way of looking at something where you're saying, okay, if they're doing this in media and entertainment, and they're doing this in automotive, and this is happening in aerospace, or this is all visualization. We're doing the simple thing, not simple, but if you strip it all down, we're visualizing data. But we need to visualize it in a way that we can interact with it, we can manipulate it, and we can make real life choices and decisions on it. Doesn't really matter the vertical, because you're doing the same thing. Now the language in those different verticals are different, so you need to make sure that you have your thought leadership within those verticals, and speak the language to them. But you can take the experience from the media and entertainment space and what they're doing, and say, God, you know what? If we look at your full workflow, and not try to just band-aid it with compute, because that's just not our perspective of the right approach, right? But let's really look at the workflows, and together, let's see how we can simplify this and scale things down before we scale them up. And it's been, that same approach with Silverdraft and our products. Let's build out, let's stick the stake in the sand, with Trinity, let's build a big supercomputer, let's put it on wheels, let's take it to Hollywood, let's show them that they need supercomputing, right? Now let's scale it down. Let's scale it down to the very specific products, and then start building it up from there. And we're scrappy. We have a team that is working together to build the company. This isn't me, right? It is our entire team. And the things that they do on a daily basis to work together and support not just our clients, but our partners in the other technology companies that we work with, they amaze me every day, and I'm so excited for this next journey for us. So Trinity, who I haven't gotten to work together and day to day, he's always been, part of our kind of roadmap, our tech side. So he's been there, and he handpicked our CTO, and those two are like glue. For the first time ever, he's available, and he's joining us in the day-to-day side. So I don't have to be alone as a co-founder.
The co-founder, you have Trinity will be there, and you'll be able to do your magic, and then he brings the magic on the technical side.
It's really how.
Yeah.
It was just that moment of two people coming together who, I have this perspective on this side of things, and speak that language, and he has this perspective and speaks that language and that tech, and then, we've come together. Have built a computer, but it's just how we've come together. It's just, you got to meet him. You're gonna love him. You should be talking to him.
Well, we'll look forward to talking to Trinity in the future. So here's an opportunity for us.
Yeah.
Let's take a look, where we are today for Silverdraft, and where we're going to go into the future. So, what do you see over the next, it changes so fast, right?
It
so
does.
You take a look at and Moore's Law and the rate of change and everything that takes place. But if you take a look at Silverdraft, what do you see over the next 12 months?
Well, a lot of growth. And we're fortunate, we're moving into our new facility. We will have, more power, right? And greater space to be able to expand our footprint here in Idaho with our headquarters. And just this, a continuation on our development, our technology, and our R&D, but being that extended R&D for our clients and scaling up our team to really meet the demand. Because there's how we do it today is different than how we're going to do it tomorrow. And we have to continually look at tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. And so that collaboration on R&D and development is critical for us to continue to improve these workflows in a sustainable fashion.
And so you take what the customers need, you take Trinity, the work that he does with the R&D, and you bring those together, and that's really how you...
And we bring those together, and it's also not just the client, but it's, the announcements NVIDIA's making, was made today at his keynote. What is it that AMD and Intel and Micron and, the camera systems, the tracking systems, and just really continue to develop those relationships and partners so that we're not looking at the now, but we're looking at the future. And,
I would imagine, with memory storage, all the stuff. Everything has to be just amazing what you're dealing with. Okay, so I want to make sure that the audience kind of feels an understanding. Give us one of the top examples of what Silverdraft does. Can you? I know we talked about it. We started talking about it a little bit.
Yes. So virtual production, we drive that. We're the compute and the workflow behind how they power all of that. We're also, there's what we call XR broadcast. So you're watching a live event, and you see these AR graphics come up off, at the Super Bowl, off the field, or the Macy's Day Parade, the Santa's flying in. That's a wonderful client of ours called Silver Spoon, has really been pushing kind of this XR broadcast space, as well as some other clients of ours as well. But really this, seeing things, this experience of seeing something when it's not really there, but making it be there is where the power behind driving.
So you've been in the Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Macy's Day Parade. Where you see a lot of the graphics and the video combinations that you bring. You brought a lot.
We've been a lot of the power behind that. Yes.
Anything in like animation, like with Disney or any of those type of things?
Yes. We have some things I can't formally speak to, since this is a live event. But yes, we do a lot of entertainment-based driving of a lot of different entertainment things, different amusement parks and resorts around. We also, the artists are creating, where those animation and compute systems for your high-end rendering and that. Yeah. I can hear Hardy he's not really in my ear, but I can hear him back there saying, "Hey, careful."
Careful what you can and can't say, right?
Careful what you can say.
Yeah, because I know there's a lot of licenses and other type of things that are associated therein.
But it's also their work, right? They're making Madonna, they're the creatives behind, her dancing with, VR versions of herself, and we're the back end enablement compute that helps them drive it. So I always want to elevate them and highlight them and the cool things that we get the opportunity and the gift to help enable.
What I love is when you start watching a lot of things, all the way from the Lord of the Rings, to where you have with the Mandalorian, and you have all these other things, and how animation comes in. And then you watch a lot of the things that I've seen that you've done products on displaying new Audis or other type of things. I'm amazed. This Silverdraft is a secret sauce of Idaho right now because of the wonderful things that you do. It's amazing what you do with technology. So
Well, we love Idaho, and we love, you know, the relationships that we're building with the tech companies here. I'd love to see how we all can collaborate to do some pretty amazing things and really highlight Idaho and the technologies that are here.
my last question has to do, since we're kind of in this Capital Connect series,
Yeah.
has to do with the formation of capital, because we've talked about you organically growing Silverdraft Supercomputing. What do you see as far as the future and your needs for capital, and how do you anticipate getting that capital for your future growth?
You know, that's right. We're right in the process now of getting close to going out for another raise, and it was really interesting picking Trinity's brain last week on really what our approach should be, because he has so much experience in this. I mean, you know, all of his companies have sold for hundreds and hundreds of millions, so he's really has experience in this space. And so, in looking at it, you know, when you look at Silverdraft and where we're at and what we've done, and the client list, we have an incredible client list. I mean, it's
and these are
pretty
people that come to
mind-blowing.
you because
It's
of what you
all
have.
been inbound.
Yeah, right.
It's all been inbound, but
amazing.
we have to continue to scale to meet this demand. It's a wonderful problem to have. But what approach do we take in that? You know, we looked like we'd be out on our, you know, our D raise with our clients, and how it's proven. Like, we've already, the demand is there, the clients are there, there's a need for the technology is proven. And we've proven that there's that need and demand
Right.
because it's inbound. Now we need to scale it and start going the other direction. I will always make it about highlighting our partners and our clients and what they're doing, but we do need to start going out and saying, well, this is really cool. These are really cool things that we're enabling. So, you know, I'm really open on what that's going to look like from a raise, but we want to make sure we raise the right kind of money,
Right.
and those that want to build and expand on the vision with us. And I'm open to where this goes with Silverdraft.
And it sounds like you have some great alternatives and pathways. But what's so great is the growth that you've taken place because the organic nature that you've been able to lead through.
Yeah.
So congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that, Amy.
Thank you very much.
And Amy, I'm going to say this part. We are very fortunate to have your leadership and your guidance and the things that you do with Silverdraft as you grow the company. So if we could, we'd love to be able to see you maybe in about a year, come back,
Okay, you
tell us
got it.
about some of the new technologies, because of the way that Moore's Law stuff continues to evolve. And then you can tell us about some of the capital that
You got
might
it.
be taken.
We'll tell you how we did it.
Yeah, that would be, I'd love to hear that. And then one other thing is that we have November 2nd, we have the Idaho Technology Council Hall of Fame coming.
Yes.
And we also have the Idovation Awards, which Silverdraft Supercomputing has been nominated in this area, this segment of new products, of
Yes.
innovative products. So we're excited to see about that. But put that on your calendar. November 2nd, we'll have the Idaho Technology Council Hall of Fame, which we'll be announcing. Well, we're going to do it here on this stage.
All right.
We're going to who's going to be inducted in the Hall of Fame this year will be Steve Appleton. So.
Which is just fantastic, absolutely
It is,
fantastic.
and all the news that's taken
Yes.
place with the $15 billion investment that Micron is making. This makes it even more special.
Well, and I also just want to give a shout out to Micron, because, you know, in starting Silverdraft, they really were supportive and instrumental in helping us really push what we were architecting and building, and gave us a lot of, you know, support. So I really,
That's great to know.
not like an investment standpoint, but yes, in some ways, supported us at NAB for like 3 years, and really just helped get the word out with regards to what we were doing and the technologies we were building.
That's
so
great to know
Micron,
that.
thank you. So that's going to be a great one.
It'll be a great one.
To be at.
And
so.
October 5th, we also have a 50 to the A Capital Connect meetup, which is going to be over at Pay Up Brewing from 4 to 6 o'clock. So you can go on the Idaho Technology Council, our website, idahotechcouncil.org, and you can register for that.
Wonderful.
But now that we have that down, thank you so much, Amy,
You're
Gile, for
welcome.
being with us today. And we'd like to, again, thank our sponsors of the Capital Connect series, Alturas, Idaho First Bank, Wilson Cicini, and BR Wealth Management, Deloitte, Key Bank, Perkins Coie, and the St. Luke's Health System. So thanks to Amy Gile. Let's hear for Amy Gile.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.